Let's take a look at one of the major screens within the AR module, the customer screen. What you're going to find is that a lot of the screens within UA look very much the same, and that was quite intentional. For example, the customer screen and the vendor screen look very much the same. Obviously the properties are different, the things we store about a customer and a vendor are quite a bit different, but the capabilities and how we use the screens are very, very similar. And again, that was quite by design, so that once you understand one screen, you kind of understand the rest of the system implicitly. So to launch one of these screens, you could obviously find the module, find the subcomponent, and click on the icon, or if you've been there before, you can just click it from the toolbar, which I'll do here. Now you'll notice the customer screen popped up, and the first thing you'll notice is how the screen is another tab that gets overlaid into System Manager or the main menu. So for example, my main menu is still open here, and all I've done is open another tab that I can navigate to here. So this is the customer screen. To illustrate the point I mentioned earlier, I'm going to also open the vendor screen, and it's going to open another tab, another window. But what I wanted to show you was, if you look at the vendor screen and then look at the customer screen, they almost look identical. But as we said a moment ago, the fields are quite a bit different, but the screens are basically the same. So you'll find that there's many hundreds and hundreds of screens within UA that look very identical. Again, this is quite by design, and once you understand the anatomy of one of these screens, you kind of understand them all. I'm going to focus on the customer screen, but realize that it applies to a vast majority of screens within UA. The first thing you'll notice in this particular sample company is I've got 3 customers on file. Obviously not a very good example. Typically you have quite a bit more, but you get the concept. In this case I've got 3, and the first thing you'll notice is the screen is split into 2 sections. The top section, or the section with the blue background, I'm looking at a particular customer. In this case it's Fans Unlimited. And down below, I can also work with a particular customer or all of my customers in a spreadsheet style fashion. So depending on what I'm doing, I might find one portion of the screen useful, or I might want to use the bottom half to do more of a bulk updating type thing. So for example, if I wanted to work with it in a spreadsheet format, I can quickly navigate through the fields and do it that way, instead of having to page between records one at a time. You will notice that when I click on the bottom, for example, this Filters Plus, that the record on the top became sensitive to the one on the bottom. So again, if I click on this Jacob Plastics at the bottom, up at the top, that's the particular record I'm looking at. So this screen is a split screen. You can obviously resize that to get more real estate in one or the other, but that's how the 2 halves of the screen are partitioned horizontally, and how they interact with one another. Let's take a look at the top of the screen for the rest of this video. The first thing you'll notice is that the information about a particular customer is broken into tabs, related groups of information. This is adjustable as well, but this is the default installation. The first thing you'll notice is the customer. I've got the billing, shipping address, the basics, and that my required fields have the little red asterisk next to them. That's also definable, which fields are required, that type of thing. But again, this is simply the default. When I click on these other tabs, I get other information. So this is my financial screen. Here's where I'll go in and enter a lot of information about their financial attributes. I might also want to have information about the sales team. So which sales group, which sales region, who's their default salesperson, those things would be stored here. So you get the idea. As you click on these buttons, you're still looking at the same customer that we were looking at, still looking at Jacob Plastics, but all of these tabs contain additional information about Jacob's Plastics. Again, the information is grouped into logical collections of information that relate to one another. In this case, the main information, financial information, etc. Another thing you'll notice is that anywhere there's a drop box in the system, if I wanted to go add an item to that list or look at that particular item, all I do is double click the item. So to go back and show you what I just did, in the customer screen I've got a group called handset, bronze, gold, silver, whatever these mean to you. Obviously these are adjustable. If I want to click on that particular item and investigate it further, I simply double click it. So let's just take the customer type, for example. I'm going to double click this type, open the screen, and now I can add new types or edit the one that I'm looking at. So there's also quite a bit of right click. I just right click this customer group, and there's a lot of things that I can do here as far as filtering, changing the order of how, as I type, it automatically finds the item in the list. I could do that based on any field in that particular lookup item. So there's quite a bit of functionality locked away in the right click event. So for this video, the main thing I wanted to show you was sort of the anatomy of one of the screens. And in the next video, we'll talk about the toolbar along the top and the different things you can do when you're looking at a particular record or group of records.